This is ACT Science, Passage 3, and it's a research passage. We know it's research because it says Study 1, Study 2, so we're comparing two studies. In our DRC approach, R stands for research and read. We would want to at least know the differences between the two studies, so spend a short amount of time in the passage. When we get to the questions, we're going to take our R and R approach, read the question, and then reread the question and breaking it down step by step. Works for most students. So if we glance at our passage, we're studying something called a Newton's cradle, where you drop a sphere and it collides and the sphere on the other side is ejected. If you've ever played with one of these, they're kind of fun. So scientists performed two studies with Newton's cradle to examine the time between collision here and ejection here. Series 1, 9 trials were conducted, 3 different heights, small spheres. So it looks like we have interaction time and number of spheres and 3 different heights. Study 2, procedure of study 1 was repeated, except the ejected sphere was a large sphere. So the sphere on the end was a large sphere. So that's the change. It's really the only change we have. And really, once we understand the change, we can move right to the questions. Question 14. In which of the following ways did study 1 differ from study 2? So in study 1, we're looking at study 1 in particular. In study 1, right, the rows contained only small spheres. And in study 2, both large and small spheres were tested. That is correct. Just make sure you have them in the right order. If you needed to, you could process and eliminate. You see in choice H and J, they're talking about different heights. There's only 3 heights tested in each one, so you know both those are wrong. So if you needed a process of eliminate, you could. Your answer is F. Number 15, based on the results of study 2 at a release height of 3 centimeters, we're looking at the triangle. The interaction time for the row of 4 spheres. So we're looking at the triangle and we'll know the interaction time. So just draw a line over, and that looks to be about 175. So your answer is A. Number 16, upon completion of both studies, a total of how many trials had been conducted? So in study 1, we see 9 trials were conducted. In study 2, the procedure was repeated. So 9 plus 9 is 18. Number 17, based on the description of the spheres used in this study, a row of 4 small spheres would have been what length? So it tells us the small spheres had a diameter of 2.5. So we have 4 of those. So 2.5 times 4 is 10. So D. Number 18, consider the results of study 1 and 2 for a release height of 0.1 centimeters. We're using the circle. Prior to the studies, a scientist predicted for rows that had the same number of spheres, interaction time for the trials having a large sphere would be longer for the trials that involved only small spheres. The large sphere is study 2. Is study 2 interaction time longer than study 1? So our interaction time is over here. So let's just check each one for the circle. So we're going to check 3 spheres first, and we see the interaction time is longer for large spheres, right? So it looks to be at about 175, 180 here. It looks to be about 160 here, just slightly more. It's longer for 4 spheres and longer for 5 spheres, right? It actually seems the higher up you go, the longer the interaction time. So the answer would be yes, and it's the interaction time for study 2 was longer because that's where the large spheres were tested. So your answer is G. Number 19, consider the results of study 1 in which a release height of 1 centimeter was tested. For each small sphere added to the row, the interaction time increased by a value closest to what? So if we look at each interaction time, we will just plot the difference between those. So 140 to 180 to 230-ish, all increase by about 40 to 50. So your answer is C, 45. Number 20, suppose if Y question. Remember, you're going to have to extrapolate some information here, make some extensions. Suppose that study 2 had a trial in the row of 5 spheres with a release height of 0.6. Suppose that had been tested. So it's going to be between 1 and 0.1, right? The interaction time would most likely have been. So we know it's going to be between these two, somewhere around there. And that's going to be between 250 and 300. So your answer is H. Double check to see if there's any categories that stand out to you as troublesome. We have all types of question categories in this passage. All right, reach out if you have any questions at all.